It's TK Friday, and today in the Joy of Editing, it is part 2 of David Tillett's Photoshop actions from TK Button Clicks. Stay tuned. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly, and welcome to TK Friday. Sit back and relax. We're going to dive into more of David Tillett's Photoshop actions from TK Button Clicks. By the way, if you don't yet own the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, I'll have links in the description below this video that'll take you over to Tony Kepper's web store. There you're going to find the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, a lot of great panels over there you can pick up. Sean Bagshaw's training videos, which I highly recommend. And you'll also find the TK Grayscale and TK Magic Mixer plugins. They're sold as a bundle. You'll get both plugins for $12. If you're into black and white photography, you'll love TK Grayscale and TK Magic Mixer. Use my promo code DK15 and you'll save 15% off your entire purchase. When you use my promo code, I make a small commission, and this helps to support my channel, so I really appreciate it when you use my promo code. And not only are you helping me out, but you're getting 15% off. By the way, I do have PDF notes for you that go over everything I cover in this video. You'll find download links in the description of this video, along with links for the images I'm using as examples. Also, at the bottom of the PDF notes, if you don't have David Tillett's actions installed yet, you're going to find instructions on where to find them, how to install them, so check that out if you don't have his actions installed yet. Now, as I said last week, you never want to run David Tillett's actions from your My Actions panels because they will not work. You got to run them from Photoshop Actions, and I recommend that you put your Photoshop Actions in button mode. All you need to do is click right here in the hamburger menu and click on button mode, and then just scroll down through your actions and find David Tillett's actions. Now, the first action we're going to look at today is a really good one called Zone Color Grading. All we need to do is click on the action Zone Color Grading, and you'll note we have a group called Zone Color Grades, and we have Zone 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9. Zone 1 is the darker tones, and they get lighter as we go up to Zone 9. And you'll also note that we are making the adjustments through a color grading tool. This means we can adjust shadows, midtones, and highlights, as well as color grade shadows, midtones, or highlights. So it's a really nice action. Now, where are these zones coming from? Right now, the color grading tool is open. I'll click the X to close it. But if you click on the zone button to make a zone mask, a color picker tool comes up, and you could click on your image to find a zone. I'm just going to click OK, because what I want to show you is, notice up here, we have zones 1 through 9. What David is using is zone 1, as you can see right there by that mask, zone 3, zone 5, zone 7, in zone 9 to make all these masks down here. Now, I just wanted to show you where he was getting those from. So now I'll just go ahead and close this panel by clicking the X. But you'll notice this action starts us out on zone 1, and it does give us a color grading tool. I'm just going to turn it back on because I shut it off to show you the zone masks. Now, we'll be making our adjustments with a color grading tool, which is controlling a curves adjustment layer. So the color wheel lets us color grade. We can adjust shadows, midtones, or highlights in any order that you like. But what I recommend is, before you make an adjustment, right now we're on zone 1. If you come to the combo or CX panel and click the double arrow magenta button, you can see where that zone is hitting. Everything in magenta is in zone 1. So it gives you an idea of what you're targeting, and then click this button again to shut off the overlay. In zone 1, I'm looking at the shadow down in here. I want to lighten up that shadow just a little wee bit. So I'll start out with shadows. I'll click on the shadow button, and I want to lighten up the shadow with the brightness slider. So I'm going to drag this to the right over to right there, plus 20. See how that lightens up a little bit? And now I'm going to click on the midtone button, and I want to darken the midtones a bit. I'll take the brightness slider, move it to the left, and I'll take it over to right here, minus 15. But you notice that curve swoops down into those shadows, and that darkens these areas back in here, but I still maintain lightness in here. Watch, I'll shut this off. Here's before, and here's after. And now let's work on zone 3. Click on the zone 3 layer, make it active. Let's see where that zone hits. Click on the double arrow magenta button again, and you can see where that zone's hitting. A lot of different places. Click this button again to go back to the image. All I want to do here is darken up the midtone area, so click on the midtone button. And I just want to slightly darken. I'll take the brightness slider to the left over to right there, -12. Now, I just want to warm up that zone. So I'm going to click about right here. See how that just warms that zone up a little bit? But that's the beauty of the zone color grades. We can adjust the shadows, midtones, and highlights in the zones, and we can also color grade. Let's look at a before and after in zone 3. I'll shut off zone 3. Here's before. And here's after. Now let's click on the zone 5 layer. Now again on the Converse AX panel, click the double arrow magenta button and we can see where that zone is hitting. Click this button again, we'll go back to the image. And I'll start out with midtones. I'll click on the midtone button and just open up the midtones a little bit. Not much. Over to there, +8. And I also think I want to warm that up a little bit with a color grade. So you see my cursor right here. Just click wherever you want to drop a color grade. I'm going to click right here. If you right click on that puck that gets dropped down, you'll reset it just in case you need to move it to a different spot. Or if you click and put down a puck, you can always click somewhere else and the puck will just move wherever you click. But I think right there is good. Now let's click on the shadow button. I want to darken the shadows a bit. I'll take the brightness slider and move it to the left and I'll take it over to right there, -10. Now let's shut off zone 5. Here's before and here's after. Now let's click on the zone 7 layer to make it active. By the way, I really don't like what's happening up in the sky, but I'll take care of that in a minute or two, so hang in there. Let's click on the double arrow magenta button on the Converse AX panel. We can see where that zone is hitting. Don't worry about the sky. Click it again to go back to the image. I'll start out with midtones. I'll click on the midtone button. I want to slightly brighten up the midtones with the brightness slider, and I'll take it to right there, 11. And now I want to slightly warm up those midtones. Not much, maybe right about here. That's it. Now let's move to highlights. I'll click on the highlight button. And I think I want to lighten up some of the snow in here. This is a glacier, I believe, through here. So what we're going to do is move the brightness slider to the right. And I'm going to take it to right there, 23. Now let me shut this off. Here's before and here's after. Yeah, I like the way that snow lightens up. Now let's click on zone 9. And let's click on the double arrow magenta button again. We can see where that zone hits. Click it again to shut it off. I just want to work in the midtones. I'll click on the midtone button. I just want to slightly lighten up the midtones over to right there, +17. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after. Just lightens up the snow a little bit more. Now, if you're following my PDF notes, the first thing I did was saved out a sky and foreground channel. And the way I did that was by holding down my shift key and clicking on this button on the Converse AX panel. If you're following along with the video and not the notes, you're not going to have the sky or foreground here yet. So hold down your shift key and click this button, and then those channels will go in. Now what you want to do is come up and click on the zone color grade group, and David Tillett has an action for this. All you need to do is look for the intersect foreground action and give that a click, and that'll drop out the sky. Now when I shut off the group, you can see here's the before, here's the after. Now it's only affecting the foreground. If you have TK Opacity Plus, and if you don't, you should pick it up at Tony Kuiper's web store. I have links in the description below this video. It's absolutely free. Or you could pull back on the layer opacity by clicking here and pulling back on your layer opacity. But I'm going to use TK Opacity Plus. I really love it. Now right now, if I right click on 10, you can see before. And if I right click again, you can see after. But I decided the effect was too strong. So I went down and I tried like 50%. And I thought that looks better. But then I said, what about 60%? So click on the 6. Now, if I right click on the 6, this is before and this is after, and that's much better. So there you go. But that's zone color grades, a really great adjustment, especially if you want to really get into all these different zones of your image and really just fine tune it. I love this adjustment. I want to say something about the intersect foreground action. This action only works if you have a sky and a foreground saved out in your channels, by the way. If not, it won't work. Make sure you save out the sky and foreground as a channel before running that action. Ready for another action? This time it's the paint out saturation action. Now I have this image of a rose and it's really oversaturated, the green in the background and the rose itself, but we can just simply paint out that saturation. Let me show you how. Let's find the paint out saturation action, which is right here, paint out saturation. Click that. You get a blank pixel layer in the saturation blend mode. And note, we have a selection by the selection indicator. This is a saturation 1 selection, targeting very saturated colors. And if you look at my brush swatches right here, the foreground color is gray. And we'll use that to paint out the saturation. Now, I recommend using lower opacities for this. Right now, I'm at 20%, 10%, 20, 30, but you don't want to go too high. And now with a nice soft edge brush, just paint over oversaturated areas. If you need a stronger effect, lift your brush and paint again. You'll remove more of the saturation, or unclick your mouse and then re-click and paint again to remove more. I think I'm satisfied with the saturation I removed off of the rose. And now we can go to the background colors like the greens. Any oversaturated green, we can just paint on those and just kind of dull those down. And that nice soft edge brush will be nice for you. It just feathers nicely. Even if I get into the reds a little bit extra there, it'll still look good. It'll blend really nicely. So let's just get out some of that oversaturated green. And now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. But just that easy, you can paint out saturation. Here's a little area I missed. I'll just go ahead and get that one. The next action is the color dodge burn action. We can dodge highlights, burn shadows, and add color to them using color fill adjustment layers. Let's try it out in this image. We have some beautiful color here in the highlights and in the shadows. So let's look for color dodge burn and give that a click. A color picker comes up with a default setting for your highlights. You can move this and change this to any color or any tint you want. I'm just going to accept the default for now and click OK. And now another color picker comes up for your shadows, and that is the default color for the shadows. And you could change it again, change its tint, change how light or dark it is, how much saturation it has, and so on by moving this puck around. I'm just going to click OK. And just like that, you've dodged and burned your shadows and highlights. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. Isn't that cool? Here's before, here's after. Now, if you want to change those settings after you've already clicked color, dodge, and burn, click right here and open up the group. What if we want to alter the color and the luminance of the highlights? So let's double click this icon. The color picker comes up. Now in real time, you can move this puck around. You see that, and make that lighter, darker, give it more saturation, less saturation. You could come here and change the hue by moving this slider. Say I could warm it up, maybe like that. Maybe make it a little lighter, a little less saturation, maybe somewhere right around there, and click OK. And then if you want to work on the shadow burn, just double click this icon, the color picker comes up. And again, you could lighten up the shadows, darken them down, give them more saturation, less. You can change their hue if you want to, maybe somewhere right around in here. Let's lighten them up a little bit, maybe right about here. Click OK. Let's shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. But see how those shadows are burned, and we changed the color on them with these color fill adjustments, one for the shadows, one for the highlights. Let's shut off the group. Here's before, here's after. And remember, you can always adjust the layer opacity if you need to. But that's the color dodge burn action, a pretty good one. You need to give it a try. The next action we're going to look at is this one right here, Intersect selection. But let me set this up first. What I want to do is darken the shadows in the body area of the heron. So let's come up to the multi-mask panel and click on the luminosity mask button. And I want to target dark tones. So let's click on darks 1. Here's darks 2. Yeah, these areas right in here, darks 2, I think will get it. I want to output this to a brightness contrast adjustment. I'll use that to make my adjustment. So we'll click this button, and you can see we have that darks 2 mask on a brightness contrast adjustment layer. But here's how we can use that action. I'll use my object selection tool. So I'll click on my object selection tool. I'm in rectangle mode, sample all layers, hard edge unchecked. And what I'll do is I'll just click and drag right around the body here and select the body of the great blue heron, I believe it is. And now what we need to do is click on the intersect selection action. And when I do, if we click the double arrow here, you can see it's only selected my selection. It intersected it into the mask, dropping everything else out. So that's pretty powerful. Click this button again and we can go back to the image. And now let's make the adjustment. I'll take my brightness and darken it up to the left, and I'll take it over to like right there, -37. And I think I'll give it a little extra contrast to move the contrast slider to the right over to 8. Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before, here's after, but that's the intersect selection action. It's a real time saver. Now, of course, you could always do it the long way, which is the way I like to do it, to be honest with you, with the multi-mask panel and the mask calculator, or the layer mask calculator on the Commodore CX panel. But if you want to save some time, intersect selection's the action for you. Now, the next two actions are intersect subject and intersect background. We'll use this same image, but what I'll do first is hold down my shift key and click this button right here to select subject on the Commodore CX panel. When you hold down your shift key and click this, you're going to save out a subject and a background channel. That's important before you run intersect subject and intersect background. Don't forget that. What I want to do is lighten up the midtones of the entire bird. So I'm going to come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the luminosity mask button, click on midtones 2. I'll put that to a brightness contrast adjustment layer by clicking this button. And now I just want the bird so I can intersect the subject. So come to the Photoshop actions and look for your intersect subject action. Give that a click. And just like that, if we click the double arrow button on the Commodore 6 panel, we can see we've just selected the subject and intersected a midtones 2 mask into it. I'll click this button again to go back to the image. And let's come to the brightness adjustment, lighten up the midtones. I'll take this over to like 24, maybe decrease the contrast a little bit. I'll just take it to the left over to like right there, a -7. Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. Again, before and after. So just like that, we lightened up the entire bird, just in the midtones. Now I want to work in the background. I want to lighten up the background a little bit and maybe decrease its contrast. So we can use an intersect background action. First off, let's make a mask. Come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the luminosity mask button. I want to target dark tones, so let's click on darks 1. Let's output that to a brightness contrast adjustment again. So we'll click this button. We only want the background, so if we click on intersect background, because we've already saved out a background and a subject channel, remember? So if I click on intersect background, and if I click the double arrow button, you can see we only have the background. Pretty cool, and it's quick, one click of a button. Let's click this again so we can see the image. And what I want to do here is just lighten up that background a little bit. We'll take the brightness slider to the right. I don't want to go too crazy here, but just a little bit. Maybe right there, +17. And let's decrease the contrast a little bit, maybe down to right there, a -22. Now let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. See, we just lightened up the background. And if we click this button right here, we can see the overall before and after these adjustments. I have 2 actions to go, intersect sky and intersect foreground. Now in this image, I want to start out with lightening up the foreground. But the first thing I need to do if I want to use the intersect foreground and intersect sky actions is save out a sky and foreground as a channel. So hold down your shift key and on the Commodore CX panel, click this button right here. And that saves out a sky and a foreground as a channel. I want to use a zone mask to target this tone right here because I want to lighten this tone up in the foreground. So what we're going to do on the multi-mask panel is click this button right here for a zone mask. A color picker comes up and I want to pick this tonal value right here. So we're going to click right there and click OK. And now when I look at the zone mask, I think it looks really good. You know, we could lighten it up, but I don't really need to, or you could tighten it up. But I like the values that I'm getting in here. And these are the areas I do want to lighten up, the light gray areas. I want to make my adjustment with a color grading tool. So we're going to click this button right here. We have a curves adjustment layer with that zone mask on it being controlled by the color grading tool. Now I only want it in the foreground so we can intersect the foreground. We already have a foreground channel saved out. So look for the intersect foreground action, give that a click. On the Commodore 6 panel, if I click this button, you can see the sky dropped out. We only have the foreground intersected into the mask with that zone mask. Click this button again, we have the image back. Now we can make an adjustment. I'll click on the midtone button. And I want to lighten up those midtones a good bit. And right about there, 38 should be good. Let's give them a slight warm color grade. So you see my cursor, I'm just going to click right there. just warm them up a little wee bit. I think that looks good. And now let's click on the shadow button. And I just want to slightly darken the shadows to build up a little bit of contrast. Maybe right here at -12. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after. A nice little lightening there. Now, I want to lighten up this snow here. So again, I think I'll use a zone mask. So right now the color grading tool's in the way. I'll click the X to close the color grading tool. Nothing changes on the color grading layer. Click on the zone mask button and a color picker comes up and I'll click right here. I think that represents the snow. I'll click OK. And I like how this is targeting. Again, I could lighten it up, but I don't need to. And I could tighten it, but I don't need to. I'm going to output this time to a brightness contrast adjustment layer. So we'll click this button. And now let's lighten up that snow a little bit. I'll just take the brightness slider to the right and I'll take it right here to 32. Let me shut off this layer. Here's before and here's after. But it's going into the sky, right? So we can do the same thing. We can intersect the foreground. So let's come and find that action. Intersect foreground, give that a click. And now let me shut this off. Before and after, just lightening up the snow. The last thing I want to do is just darken up the sky right up in the darker tones up in here, but not get these lighter areas. I'll use another zone mask. So come up to the multi-mask panel, click on the zone mask button, and I want a darker tone like right up in here. I'm just going to click and click OK. And I think we're good. See, the light areas in the clouds here are going to be knocked out of the adjustment. And I want to use a color grade tool again because I want to color grade the sky a little bit as well as darken it. So we'll click on the color grading tool button. And again, we have the mask, but it's for the entire image. So now look for Intersect Sky right here. So give that a click. And now if we click on the double arrow button, we only have the sky. So that's pretty cool. And now we'll click on the midtone button and I want to darken up the midtones a little bit, maybe over to right there, -28. And let's just cool them off a little bit. And I think maybe right around here, you see my cursor, I'll just click right here and cool that area down. Let me shut this off. Here's before, here's after. Now, if we click this button on the Converse CX panel, we started out here. This is the overall before and this is the after. But there you go. David Tillett's Photoshop actions made from TK button clicks. They're real time savers. Well, there it is, everyone. Another TK Friday comes to a close. I hope you enjoyed today's tutorial. If you did, please give it a like, share it with your friends. If you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click the bell notification icon. Click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.